Greetings and salutations all. Well, this video has been a long time coming, and it's a special video just for my longtime viewer, Jomo. He's been a supporter of my channel since day one, and he's been begging me for 5 years to do an interdimensional Bigfoot video. And I always tell him, oh, it's coming, it's coming. But I've been planning on doing another Bigfoot video, and he was on my live stream last week, and I told him, okay, I'm gonna put it out this weekend. So here it is, Bigfoot and the interdimensional connection. There is no doubt in my mind that there's a huge interdimensional, supernatural, some kind of ethereal connection to UFOs, phenomenon, that type of thing, orbs, and the Bigfoot phenomenon. No question. What is this connection? Well, it's very interesting that you've got every UFO hotspot center in the country, in the world, where there are a lot of UFO sightings. Guess what? Those are the areas with lots of Bigfoot sightings. One of my biggest points would be the Northwest Coast Territory, the woods and mountains of Washington. That is actually where the term flying saucer was coined, around Mount Olympia or whatever, in the 40s, when that pilot was going near the mountain. He saw these discs that they looked like they were bouncing off the surface of the water, and he called them flying saucers, and it hit the newspapers and the term just took off. Now, it's kind of funny that that is one of the biggest concentration of Bigfoot sightings, those mountains themselves. Another case in point would be, my hometown in Homer, Kachemak Bay, specifically the head of the bay. Huge UFO sightings since the 70s, giant glowing discs seen coming out of the ocean, which is interesting. I love the ocean UFO connection. We'll talk about that someday. UFOs, bright lights in the sky, and then also one of the most appealing Bigfoot stories in Alaska, coming from that same area near Kachemak Bay. And it's a pretty scary story, and I've got another video of the different kinds of Bigfoot in Alaska, and many of them aren't that friendly. So there's a definite connection, and it's strange. It's just really strange. Where my grandmother was from the Kobuk River, far above the Arctic Circle in Alaska, there is a legend of a flying rock. They hadn't seen metal, so they called it a rock, that came down near a mountain by the village of Shungak. And some little people came out, but they also had a big giant person. And that leads, and it's a common thread. That leads to the whole, every culture has legends of giants, all the way from the Nephilim to the ancient Mesopotamia. The Anunnaki are studied by UFO enthusiasts, giant people, a race of godlike beings. So many times people have had Bigfoot encounters and they lose time, exactly like on these abduction cases. And also many Bigfoot hunters are going out into the field. Now, I've done some extensive Bigfoot hunting. I haven't seen this yet, and the Travel Channel's flown me around the state. But a lot of Bigfoot hunters are going out, and then they're seeing these glowing orange orbs, something that's also related to UFO. It's just really interesting. And then all the research that's coming out about the Neanderthals as well, 30,000 years ago, living among humans, the gene splicing they're finding. There's a very real connection between these Neanderthals, and obviously a lot of people think that the human gene was tinkered with by aliens. Well, guess what? The Neanderthals were these ape-like beings, and many scientists believe that the Bigfoot is an offshoot of one of these hominids that survived. Now, there's several schools of thought. One school of thought of some researchers, and this could be true, they believe there is not a supernatural connection, but the Bigfoot is a flesh and blood hominid creature that survived all these years. It's super secretive. It stays in the middle of the forest and the mountains. It's very hard to get at, and it survived. And it buries its own dead, and it communicates by the tree knocking and all that, and it's an actual creature that we just haven't discovered yet. I think that that's possible in some rare instances on areas that are very secluded and hard to get at, but I think the truth is somewhere in between. When you look at all the indigenous legends of the hairy man, the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, it is all steeped in certain tribes have very specific traditions where it's honored or it's respected. There is a supernatural element, no question. And it just happens to be that these hotspots that we're talking about, Northwest Coast, different portions of Alaska, specifically the Southeast Alaskan, it's very steeped in the culture, and there is some kind of element that just can't be explained. So what is going on? So what I think is that it's almost exactly like Louis L'Amour's book, The Haunted Mesa. It was the last book the famous Western fiction writer Louis L'Amour wrote, was The Haunted Mesa. And I really love this book. Long Windy Road it's one of his favorite books, by the way, too. Check out his channel. But Louis L'Amour wrote this book, and I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I just got a huge kick out of it because the main character traveled through northern New Mexico and Taos and everything, but he actually spent some time in Santa Fe, the character did, and I just thought that was really cool. But Louis L'Amour did a lot of research. He spent time with all kinds of individuals from certain indigenous tribes. I think he was telling us something in his book, and it makes a lot of sense. In his book, there were these portals that people would go to, and they would go to this strange world that was like a rainforest world in another universe, another dimension. And you could find these portals and you would leave this world and go into this world. There was also some giant hairy creatures, similar to Bigfoot, pretty much Sasquatch, in this book that could travel in between the portals, and that explained why you'd have sightings. And it makes a lot of sense. That's what I think is happening. So many times a Bigfoot hunter follows tracks on a muddy riverbank, and it's happened here in Alaska above the Arctic Circle, where the tracks just stop and disappear as if the hominid disappeared in midair. And the analysis of some of these tracks is amazing. They're finding fingerprints on individual toes. There's a law enforcement specialists that look at these prints and they're convinced that it's from some large ape-like creature. So I believe that these Bigfoot are real flesh and blood Bigfoot, but they also have some strange supernatural thing going on where some of them can just disappear wherever they want, and some of them know where the portals are and they just disappear. And that is why we haven't recovered any of the bones. We haven't, Hunter hasn't killed one and been able to bring it back. We don't have evidence because there's this ethereal connection. They are able to disappear. We know there's something out there. Some of the evidence, some of the films, specifically the reports by credible witnesses, the tracks, legends going back hundreds and hundreds of years, there is something going on. I do believe Bigfoot exists, but we would have found one by now if there wasn't some strange connection. And then when you've got UFOs showing up at the same time, right before, during, or after Bigfoot shows up, it's just really strange. I think there was some kind of genetic manipulation into humanity's ancestors, and the aliens had an interest in this Bigfoot, and they are able to manipulate it. They created portals in time and space for the Bigfoot to travel in. And it's kind of interesting, NASA has admitted that electromagnetic portals may exist. It's been proven, physicists have proven that, just like black holes exist and wormholes, there could be these portals in our world. So it makes a lot of sense. I think that either there's the alien connection and they have manipulated the genes and ancestry of humans and hominids, and they're connected to these Bigfoot. Sometimes the Bigfoot go on their ships. Some of the Bigfoot are very intelligent and maybe advanced, like Chewbacca, or there's just a spiritual element. And this is one that is steeped in the legends of ancient cultures all around the world. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to be doing some more videos like this. Big shout out to Jomo. I promise you this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know about any evidence I may have missed. It's really interesting, and I think it's obvious. So help me out. Below this video, you'll see a link for my Teespring store where you can order my Sasquatch hoodie, t-shirts, coffee mugs, and help me on my journey to prove some of this and find Bigfoot. And I'm going to be doing more paranormal searching. So thanks, guys. It's Chuke, your friend in the field, signing out.